Okay, so we are continuing our screencast on William Blake from the first screencast where we were had just started with the tiger. We talked about stanza one. Here we have Blake is really kind of questioning whether or not the creator of the lamb is the same creator of the tiger, because this one already feels so much deeper and darker uh and almost a little sinister, I guess, maybe in a lot of ways, depending on like how you're reading it. We had talked about Tiger Tiger Burning Bright, that first stanza, and we talked about the symmetry idea. So let's continue on with stanza two. He says, "In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain, in what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp? Dare its deadly terrors clasp." So he's questioning the creation of this creature, you know, and he'll make references a little bit later on. It was the same creator of the lamb, the creator of the tiger, because the creation of this one feels different. We have attention to those physical characteristics, the eyes, the hand, I mean, the shoulder, the sinews of the heart, dread hand, dread feet, in almost a way that. Uh, we talked about maybe before, like the powerfulness and the strength and the skill that it takes to create a creature like this. Is this the same creator that created our innocent little lamb? We talked to it references burning bright in the beginning, burnt the fire of thine eyes. And so we're getting all of those allusions to something darker, hell, and moving down into that fourth stanza. What the hammer, what the chain, and what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp? Dare its daily terrors clasp, insinuating that the tiger was born out of fire, and more specifically, out of a blacksmith's fire. The hammer, the chain, the furnace, the anvil, those are all tools of a blacksmith's trade. So there's a lot of conversation whether or not, maybe the tiger wasn't something that was created from God. It's kind of the antithesis of that. Maybe something like this was created from hell. The Greek concept of the blacksmith and Hephaestus and all of that kind of stuff. So um, you have, the creator of the lamb. When we think about the lamb, it reflects the creator, it reflects God, the lamb of God, and it's his innocence when he was sent to earth to fulfill his heavenly purpose, to atone for man's sins. But here we have a creature that is much more um you know uh darker, more sinister. Um, you know is this creation parallel to the other creation, and is the creator the same? And so that's exactly the question that he asked there in the fifth stanza. When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who make the lamb make thee? So he's questioning the creation. Did he who make the lamb, is that the same creator that made the tiger? And he doesn't really have an answer for that. Like, he doesn't answer that. It doesn't sum it up. That those first two lines there in the fifth stanza, when the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, is said to kind of be an allusion to the fall of Lucifer, who was cast out of heaven by God, and he fell and created hell, and that kind of thing. So is this tiger, this creature, a creation of hell, as opposed to the lamb, a creation of heaven? And then we have that slight change there in the last stanza. It's a repeat of the first stanza, with the exception of that one word, dare. So we have could frame in the first stanza, and then we have dare frame in that final stanza. And the poet never really gets an answer for this question that he's asking is kind of left up for interpretation by the reader. If we think the tiger's creator is the same creator as the lamb, and you can argue that probably six ways to Sunday that yes, God is just as capable of creating, an innocent lamb as he is the all powerful, tiger. But is it something dark? Is there something darker kind of at play there in nature and creation? Okay, let's take a look at infant sorrow and infant joy. So, another set of companion pieces. You have infant joy published before first in 1789 in Songs of Innocence, and then infant sorrow published in 1794 in Songs of Experience. And so we have these conflicting, or maybe not contrasting or opposing ideas of childbirth and new life as one should come to expect from Blake. So you have infant sorrows, kind of like the darker, less pleasant side of birth, and then you have infant joy as the antithesis of that, where it's all bright and happy and joyful and that kind of thing. So let's take a look at sorrow first. My mother groaned, my father wept. Into the dangerous world I leapt, helpless, naked, piping loud like a fiend hid in a cloud, struggling in my father's hands, striving against my swaddling bands, bound and weary, I thought best to sulk upon my mother's breast. So you've got the exclamations there. My mother groaned! Exclamation. My father wept. So mom is groaning in obviously in strain of childbirth. Father is weeping as he comes out into the world. He or she. Here, this chaotic and powerful movement suggests that the child did not come peacefully. Right? Mother's labor was likely long and painful. Both parents were, overwhelmed by emotions when he finally arrived. Despite this, the child screamed as children do, and that's the first thing they do is make sure your lungs work. And the baby cries out there. Blake uses a simile there in the last line of that first stanza, like a fiend hid in a cloud. So this kind of suggests that, and when we look at infant joy, we'll see kind of like the difference there, that this is removed from that joyous birth that we are going to see in infant joy because he's a fiend hid in a cloud. And stanza two, the speaker is describing how he struggled in his father's hands and he did whatever he could do to keep from being swaddled. I don't know if you've ever attempted to swaddle a baby, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. So he's striving against those swaddling bands. But he is bound and defeated for the time being and begins sulking at his mother's breast. And then the flip side of that here is infant joy. Rearrange these a little odd. I apologize. So let's take a look at that and then we'll see the two contrasting sides a little bit more clearly. I have no name. I am but 2 days old. What shall I call thee? There's supposed to be a dash here in other reprints. There's a dash just similar to the one that's down there. It's the long dash. The M dash is what it's called, the long dash. It usually indicates a pause, passage of time, that kind of thing. It also can switch voices, and exactly that's what it's intended to do here. I have no name. I am but 2 days old. Dash, long dash. Mother speaks. What shall I call thee? Back to child. I happy am. Joy is my name. Sweet joy befall thee. So we've got two contrasting voices. We have baby voice, infant voice, and we have mother or another voice, presumably mother. Right. What shall I call thee? Obviously, this speaker is only 2 days old, doesn't have a name, newborn, somebody who, for all intents and purposes, should not be able to carry on a conversation. But this is Blake's world. We just kind of live in it. So this infant can convey its emotions. And so mom asks, "What shall I call thee?" And baby says, "I happy am, joy is my name." And mom responds with, "Sweet joy befall thee." Mom's still speaking here. "Pretty joy, sweet joy, but 2 days old, sweet joy, I call thee. Thou dost smile, I sing the while, sweet joy befall thee." So the babe thinks that it should be named Joy because it's representing everything that it feels at that moment. And the mother blesses the child, asking that joy or sweet joy should come to them throughout their life. So interesting, interesting contrast here. Here we have, a happy birth, a joyous birth. Mom is celebrating the child's birth and using repetition of "sweet joy befall thee" to express the hope that the child lives a blessed and happy life, a life full of happiness. And then we have that contrasting infant sorrow there, where we have the child that is born kind of unwillingly into the world and unhappy. It was a long process, a painful process. And so those two contrasting ideas there of birth. Okay, last one really quick. We've got a poison tree. This has always been one of my favorite ones. I'm going to just kind of run through it really quick. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath. My wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not. My wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears, and I sunned it with smiles and soft, deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night, till it bore an apple bright, and my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine, and into my garden stole when the night had veiled the pole. In the morning, glad I see my foe outstretched beneath, the tree. So this poet is expressing anger towards a friend, expressing anger towards a foe. But there's a difference between the two types of anger. He's angry with his friend, his pal. That he tells about it, and the wrath goes away. Right? He says he was angry with his foe. He told it not. So his wrath does grow. When you're angry with a friend, it's easy, even though you're hurt sometimes, to convince your heart to forgive him or her. You know that you're angry, you know that he did some kind of injustice to you, but you try your best to end that vengeance in your heart and make things right. On the other hand, when you're angry with a foe, an enemy, right, it takes ages for you to calm your anger if it ever happens, right? So but burying it is not the answer, right? Because when you bury it, it festers, and that's exactly what happens here. So he has buried this anger, his wrath, inside of him, and he waters it with fears and tears, and he puts on a false face when he's around his enemy, and smiles and uses soft, deceitful wiles, being kind of two-faced with the enemy, like you know what I'm talking about, right? Like you pretend, you put on your fake smile, your fake face, and you go on about your business, but it's growing constantly, day and night. And here, it's this hatred. It's grown so much till it's bore fruit. It's bore an apple, and this apple is beautiful and it's tempting. And the enemy sees that apple and knows that it belongs to him and wants to take it. So he takes the apple. He sneaks in at night, he takes the apple and he eats it, and in the morning, the guy finds him stretched out beneath the apple tree. So he ate that poison apple of vengeance. So it's almost a kind of a reflection on, it's not best to hold on to your anger. It can fester and turn into something toxic and poisonous. It's best to let it go, get it out before it kills somebody, obviously. Okay,